This is not the bioweapon because this does not exist in the way that they need us to believe. These are just normal dead cellular debris particles from dying cells in a toxic petri dish. These are neither airborne, contagious, nor cause disease. They need us to believe that these exist so that we'll go out and take these. If you wanted to create a genetic molecular test that could prove that this hoof came from a pink flying unicorn, you would obviously first have to capture a real live pink flying unicorn, take a sample from its hoof, and genetically map and sequence its full genome so that you could do the same to this hoof and see if it is a match. Not only that, but you would have to collect and sequence map the genomes of all of the 217 different breeds of regular horses and the thousands of crossbreeds, and then painstakingly test this hoof against every one of them to make sure it didn't actually belong to one of those horses and not a pink flying unicorn after all. You cannot say, well, we don't actually have a pink flying unicorn hoof to sequence and compare this hoof to, but the guy who's selling this hoof claims it's from a pink flying unicorn, and that's why he wants so much cash for it. So here's what we'll do. Unicorns look like horses in drawings and legends, so they probably have hooves just like horses. Let's just make up a unicorn genome in a computer by blending the genomes of the 10 most popular horses. Then, we'll create a PCR test to check a tiny, minute portion of this hoof's genome against that computer unicorn genome we invented, and if it's close, we'll just take his word for it. Yeah, but what if it's really from a zebra or one of the hundreds of horses you didn't include in your computer model, and there's really nothing special about it? With the exception of bacteriophages, which are not viruses, no virus ever in the history of the world in virology has ever been purified, completely isolated, and had a genomic sequence mapped and cataloged. Ever. Not a single one, including COVID-19. And no virologist in the world disputes this fact. Viruses are as theoretical as pink flying unicorns, and therefore, just like the pink flying unicorn, it is impossible to design a PCR test to detect the partial genetic sequence of a virus if you have never been in possession of, isolated, purified, and genetically sequenced the full genome of that alleged virus. Impossible. Period. They admit themselves that they completely manufacture these virus genomes in a computer exactly as we did for our unicorn hoof. And so they can have their PCR test look for any short sequence they want it to. This is not conspiracy theory. This is fact. In the document by the U.S. Center for Disease Control discussing how they came up with the PCR test for SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19, they tell you right there on page 42, real-time PCR tests were determined in limit of detection studies since no quantified virus isolates of the 2019 SARS-CoV-2 were available for the CDC to use at the time the test was developed. You heard that right. The U.S.'s biggest health authority had no sample or proof of any such thing called SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. So assays, meaning the analysis, designed for the detection of COVID-19 RNA, were tested with characterized stocks of in vitro full-length RNA of known titer, meaning concentrated substances, spiked with human A549 alveolar cells to mimic a clinical specimen of COVID-19. Yes, you read that right. They used the actual sick cancerous human lung cell tissue itself to test for an alleged virus collected from sick human lung cells. In other words, the CDC didn't have a pink unicorn hoof, So they used regular horse hoof RNA and some other common horse DNA they already had in stock to make the PCR test for pink unicorn hooves.